CBS Sports HQ presented by Enterprise. It is day 2 of 3 Big Ten Media Days. These are the teams that we'll be hearing from today. That's Amanda Guerra. I'm Chris Hassel.
What's up, friend?
And you're about to be part of history.
Oh, do tell.
Yes.
Do tell. How so?
This is going to be, I believe, the first segment in HQ history that delves into the Iowa Hawkeye football team that I'm in no way a part of. My mic won't even be on.
How are you feeling?
Not good.
Not good?
Not good.
Here's the thing, though. We have some really great people to talk about it. Yes, we're going to hear from the Iowa Hawkeyes today, as you can see. Also, 2 newcomers to the Big Ten, USC, UCLA. Did you know that Lincoln Riley's name has been mentioned now? One-hit wonder. Could he possibly be? To talk more about that, Emily Proud, Danny Kanell, and Brad Nessler there. And this is why, Chris.
Bradley.
It's really Bradley, which is why we're not going to have you talk about Iowa, because Brad knows everything there. Emily, take it away.
You know, we'll see if we have time to talk Iowa. But, of course, we have to start with the new teams, USC and UCLA. So excited to have Brad Nessler here because there's a lot of newness in this conference. Newness for you, calling a Big Ten slate for the first time. How are you taking all of this in? How are you feeling?
Emily, it's like back to the future for me because 32 years ago, Gary Danielson and I did our first game together. And it was the Big Ten, and it was several seasons of the Big Ten. And so we've come full circle. Gary's a Michigan kid. I'm a Minnesota kid. We grew up in the Big Ten. But the Big Ten was the Big Ten now, not 18 teams, you know. And when Gary and I started doing games, it was the Big 11 then, because Penn State had already joined. So I don't go back that far. But growing up as a kid, you know, the Big Ten was, that's what I was all about. Listening to Ray Christensen call Minnesota Gopher games for like 45 years. You know, the only Big Ten teams that would probably be on TV when there was maybe 3 games a weekend would be Michigan and Ohio State. You know, we didn't get a lot of Big Ten teams, not a lot of Minnesota games on TV, or Iowa for that matter. So, yeah, we're going back to some places we haven't seen in a while, and obviously some new places with the 4 teams coming in from the West. And I would have never imagined a coast-to-coast conference when I was a kid, or even when I first got in this business 40-some years ago, whatever. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, let's hope the travel is a little bit smoother than it has been over the past few weeks. Speaking of travel, one team that's going to be doing a lot of it, USC. Let's start with the Trojans here, Danny. How do you even go about evaluating what their expectations are in year 1 in this new Big Ten?
And Lincoln Riley has some pressure on him. You know, and I think the expectation when he took over USC from Oklahoma was perennially competing for conference championships and national championships. Right. And the first season, it was right there. He was right on the cusp. If Caleb Williams doesn't hurt his hamstring, he might have won the Pac-12 and been in the playoff. But then, of course, they lose that game. Utah wins, and then they're 11-3. They fall just short. Last season was a bit of a disaster. The defensive side of the ball was abysmal. Now he's tried to address that by hiring Dan Lynn, bringing in some new talent in the transfer portal. But the schedule is brutal. We don't know how it's going to be for these Big Ten teams. USC traveling East Coast, West Coast, back and forth. It's a lot of toll on its body. Ness, I'm really curious to see what type of season unfolds, because I wouldn't be surprised if they exceed expectations. Yeah. But it's a wait-and-see type of mindset.
Yeah, I talked to Coach Riley when we first came in here this morning, and I was thinking about that because I did his games when he was an assistant under Stoops and then became the head coach, you know, at Oklahoma. So been a long time since I've seen him, and haven't seen him in that Trojan-colored tie until today. And I was thinking, okay, we got you guys at the Big House. I don't know what the date is, but it's one of our games. And, you know, it's normally a game that you would only see 5:30, January 1st in Pasadena. It's a Rose Bowl type game. It's those 2 names, you know, that you would normally look at in that time set. And to get that in the regular season, that's what's going to be cool about this, because we're going to have matchups. You would go, okay, this is a bowl game, or this is a Rose Bowl, or this is a national championship type game, and we've got them every week, we hope.
A lot of first-time matchups, too. You've got a team like Washington traveling to Piscataway. As we mentioned these schedules, though, none are harder than UCLA. Let's go ahead and throw up their schedule. There's a time frame in there where they are going coast to coast. They play home games. They go across the country. Take a look at this right here. You've got at LSU. Well, yeah, of course, you open up with Hawaii. At LSU, you come back home for Oregon. Then you go to Penn State, come back home, go to Rutgers. Danny, as a former player, how do you go about managing travel like this?
The players will just approach it like 18 to 22-year-olds. It doesn't bother me, but it takes its toll. Like, it affects your sleep. It affects your habits, your creatures of habits. It takes away from preparation because you could be doing a walkthrough instead of being on a 5-hour flight across the country. And I think it's going to be a real challenge for Deshaun Foster and how he creates the schedule, when your off days are. Because when you get home from some of those East Coast trips and extremely late, you get home 2 or 3 a.m. at night, you got to make sure you get your sleep, get your rest. And it's hard because also they like to have a social life and they like to have a little bit of fun too. It's going to be really challenging, and I'm sure they'll adapt and adjust along the way.
Emily, Danny and I were talking about this before we came on air, and there was a season where I did all Pac-12 games, Gary and I, and you would go out there, do the game, red-eye home. By the time your body adjusts and you get rid of the jet lag, you're starting all over again. And then you take off again on Thursday morning or Wednesday night. And there is no way to catch up. I agree with Danny that young kids can do this. I'm telling you, it takes a toll on your body, and it's really hard to adjust. These young guys are resilient. I get it, but it's going to be tough.
You know what would concern me most if I was the coach? The noon kick on the East Coast and your body clock is 9 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. I wasn't doing too much in college at 9 a.m. Maybe was trying to get to class on time. But to have to be woken up, ready to go, ready for a 60-minute battle where you have to be ready to go from day one, that's going to be really challenging.
One of those road trips to Penn State, James Franklin set to speak today. You always talk about expectations when it comes to him. But when it comes to this newness as well, there's no divisions. You've got the expanded playoff. Penn State famously would have been in the playoff more than any other team if there was an expanded playoff at the time. So where do you put expectations for Penn State?
They better make it this year, too, or the Penn State fans are going to riot, I'll tell you that much. But, they just couldn't get over Michigan and Ohio State. Now they don't have both of them on the same schedule. And without the divisions, if they don't make one of those 12 spots, are you talking to Coach Franklin later? Don't tell him I said this, but it would be rough.
Safe with us. We're on TV, though.
Yeah, but, they've got the backfield. They've got a quarterback that, I did him once last year, and I probably got criticized by Penn State fans. Drew Aller, you're 6'5". You can throw it 100 yards. Throw it part of the 100 yards. Don't throw that swing pass out in the flat for 6. Get it down the field. Am I right?
Totally. I totally agree. It was a little bit of a check down, Charlie, last season for the Nittany Lions, but that's a big reason because Drew Aller took some of the responsibility. The offensive coordinator, who's now gone, took some of the responsibility, and the wide receiving corps took some of the part of the responsibility. Now they have Jalen Fleming coming in from Ohio State. Andy Koltnicki takes over the offense from Kansas. He had a pretty prolific offense there.
Right.
So I'm excited to see if Drew Aller can take a step forward. We forget, he hasn't played much football. It's only been one entire season. I expect him to take a step forward and get better results, but I am with you, Ness. They better make the playoff. They have been entrenched in that third-place spot, but it's not going to get any easier with Oregon coming in. Michigan's not going anywhere. Ohio State at the top. It's not going to be easy for them, but they should be right back there.
We'll see how that goes. It looks like, I guess, we do have time to talk some Iowa, so this one is for Chris Hassel. I hope we do you proud here.
Notice how he still interjected himself in the Iowa conversation by saying he wasn't going to be a part of it.
Speaking of new offenses, Chris,
yes.
I hope that Lester thing works out. I don't know. That Cade McNamara better get healthy.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Is it going to work out?
I don't know.
What do we expect?
Where was he? Western Michigan or whatever. A pretty diverse offense, and anything's going to be better than 138 passing yards a game or whatever. It probably wasn't that, but it was pretty bad.
Right. It was one of the worst offenses in all of college football.
Yeah.
The thing that Kirk Ferentz probably wants Lester to do is just get incrementally better. No one expects them to come in and light it up in the Big Ten. They just need to be more balanced. They're going to get better quarterback play, too. You mentioned Cade McNamara getting healthy. He's supposed to be back. As long as he stays healthy, the quarterback play and the offense were abysmal. I mean, it was really tough to watch. And the one thing Kirk Ferentz always exceeds expectations. They're always really good defensively. They're always really good along the offensive line. They're going to have a pretty good run game.
Tight ends.
Quarterbacks. Yeah, tight ends. I mean, they have an identity, which is great. And I think they're still going to be extremely competitive. And now all of a sudden, without divisions, it's going to be tougher for them to get to the Big Ten championship.
And Chris, just if you're going to lose 4 games, don't have 3 of them be shutouts, okay? Let's not do that.
Yeah, averaged 30 points, not the Iowa offense, just Iowa games that they were involved in last year. So we just hope that it's a little bit more exciting.
We got Iowa State, so watch that one. We'll see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
It'll be a fun
tune
one.
into that game on CBS with Brad Nessler on the call. We got one more team we want to talk about, and that is Nebraska. They're a team coming in that has not made it to a bowl game since 2016, 7 straight losing seasons, but a lot of excitement with a 5-star quarterback in Dylan Raiola. What are you expecting for Nebraska to pull off this
Dylan
year?
was, hooked up with Georgia there and then moved to Buford, and one of the powerhouse high school programs just up the street from where I live. And he exceeded all expectations in his final year in high school. And then when he decommitted and went to Nebraska, I know the folks there are really excited because he looks like the guy. And we'll see. I mean, he's a young kid, but they're excited for him.
I usually am very nervous about, buying into the hype of somebody who hasn't taken a snap in college football. But I did watch the spring game, and Dylan Raiola goes out there. He lights it up. He wears the 15. He trains with Patrick Mahomes. Some of the motion mechanics are very similar to Patrick Mahomes. And I don't want to put that type of hype and expectation on him because he already has enough. But similar to Iowa, the quarterback play and the offense was really subpar. I think the thing that's going to be hard for Dylan Raiola, he doesn't have to win the Heisman Trophy this season. He doesn't have to carry the team on his back. He just has to eliminate some of the turnovers, get some of those red zone, convert some field goal drives, which they had last year, into touchdowns, and they could make a huge leap if he's just decent and a good quarterback, which I think he will be.
And it's set up for Coach Rule, who is usually, except with the exception of the Panthers, year 2 is a good one.
Yep.
Yes, continues to build. You mentioned his transfer to Buford. He's on his 4th school.
Yeah, he's been around.
He's been around. So he's come into places.
It wasn't normal for me, but it's normal nowadays.
That's true. Well, we're looking forward to seeing how he does on his 4th school. Nebraska will be at the podium today for day 2 of Big Ten Media Days here in Indianapolis. But for now, we're going to send it back to you in studio. Amanda.
Emily, thank you so much. Chris.
That was great stuff.
Look, they're not even going to pop you on camera to talk about Iowa. We're just going to go to the Cover 3 podcast. Cover 3 tailgate, entire crew out there having a great time. Chip Patterson and company. Did you like what Brad had to say?
I did. Brad called one of Iowa's biggest wins ever back in 2008. They upset a Joe Paterno unbeaten Penn State team late in the season. I was on the field for that. I got knocked over, blindsided by a Penn State lineman who was...
But not knocked out. Close.
But I survived the field storming.
Cover 3 podcast, the entire crew out there at Big Ten Media Days. Make sure to download and follow the Give You Daily podcast.